You've been lied to your whole life. They tell you to be liked, to make people comfortable, to charm and appease. But the truth, as Machiavelli warned centuries ago, is brutal. Being liked is weak. It makes you predictable, manipulable, and ultimately powerless. Respect is stronger than affection. Respect does not depend on the whims of emotion, it demands compliance, fear of crossing boundaries, and acknowledgement of authority. Today we'll explore how to stop being liked, how to stop seeking validation, and how to command respect the Machiavellian way. By the end of this video, you won't just be a pleasant presence in a room, you'll be someone others measure carefully before they speak. Number 1. The dangerous illusion of being liked. From the very moment you begin chasing the approval of others, you are stepping into a subtle but inescapable trap. The desire to be liked is not a strength, it is a vulnerability dressed in charm. Liking is fleeting. People like those who entertain them, who soothe their egos, who conform to their expectations and mirror their desires. But these are shallow affections, fragile as glass. The world does not remain constant, and neither do the whims of those around you. A compliment today can become a criticism tomorrow. A friend can become a rival, and a crowd that applauds can easily turn to scorn when circumstances shift. Machiavelli observed this again and again among rulers, generals, and courtiers. Those who depend solely on being liked are exposed to every gust of change. Their fortunes rise and fall not by merit, but by the capricious moods of others. They're vulnerable to betrayal, ridicule, and the shifting tides of opinion that leave them exposed and weak. Being liked is a superficial shield, a mask that hides no true power. It may make people smile in your presence, but it does not compel obedience, it does not demand consideration, and it does not establish consequence. True influence, the kind that lingers long after you leave a room, comes not from the soft hand of affection, but from the unyielding grip of respect, the kind of respect that forces people to pause, to measure their words carefully, to reconsider their actions, and even to monitor their thoughts in your presence. Respect is earned in permanence, while liking is borrowed on a whim. To stop being liked is not to cultivate hatred, nor is it a call to cruelty or isolation. It is an awakening. It is the recognition that dependency on fleeting emotions chains you to the will of others, leaving you powerless. Rising above the need to be liked, choosing instead to command respect, is to claim a stature that cannot be casually shaken, a position of influence that endures because it is rooted in consequence, not affection. Once you embrace this, you begin to operate on a higher plane, where your presence is measured, your absence noted, and your authority understood without a single word being uttered. 2. Respect is a currency. Liking is debt. Consider for a moment what it truly means to be liked. When you chase approval, when you bend, smile, and accommodate to win favor, you are essentially borrowing influence from others' emotions. Every compliment you seek, every agreement you offer, every effort to please is a form of debt, a loan you take from someone else's goodwill. And like all debts, it can be recalled at any moment. Liking is fragile. It can evaporate in an instant, leaving you exposed, unarmed, and powerless. Respect, on the other hand, operates under a completely different economy. It is not given lightly, nor does it depend on the shifting whims of pleasure or agreement. It is earned through actions, through demonstration of consequence, through showing that your presence carries weight and that your decisions matter. Machiavelli observed this with ruthless clarity. The man who relies on being liked is always negotiating, always justifying himself, always vulnerable to manipulation. He is a puppet whose strings are pulled by those who understand that he craves validation. The respected individual, in contrast, is untouchable in subtle ways. He is listened to,
followed, and even feared, not because he forces others, but because his consistency, decisiveness, and authority signal that to cross him is to court risk. Respect does not require applause or smiles. It requires recognition of influence. It is permanent, while liking is temporary. It does not fluctuate with moods, fads, or envy. While the liked man begs for attention, scrambles for approval, and softens himself to fit others' expectations, the respected man acts according to principle, according to strategy, according to the unspoken code that governs consequence. He does not seek affection because he does not need it. He seeks alignment, acknowledgement, and compliance, because these are the currencies that matter in the economy of power. To understand this distinction is to understand why so many who chase likability remain invisible, while those who cultivate respect leave indelible marks on the world around them. 3. The power of strategic distance. One of the most overlooked secrets of influence is the careful mastery of distance. People are drawn to familiarity, to those who are constantly present, constantly available, constantly accommodating. But this constant presence, while it may win smiles, corrodes authority. Machiavelli understood this principle in courts and kingdoms. The ruler who is seen every day, whose words are readily given, whose approval is easily earned, becomes ordinary. His presence is no longer commanding. It is expected, familiar, and therefore undervalued. True power, true respect, grows in the spaces between appearances. Distance creates scarcity, and scarcity creates significance. When you step back, when you limit your availability, when you allow your absence to be felt, you are sending an unspoken message. You are not here for their amusement. Your time is not theirs to command. Your attention is not freely given. People begin to notice the weight of your presence, to calculate the value of your actions, and to treat your words with deliberation. This is not about arrogance. It is about strategy. By controlling access, by cultivating measured separation, you force others to invest more to earn your engagement. Your presence becomes a currency, and your absence a reminder of your indispensability.
Those who chase approval waste themselves in endless appearances, always seeking validation, always accessible, and always predictable. Those who understand the power of strategic distance operate on a higher plane. They are observed, measured, and considered in ways that the constantly liked never are. Every interaction becomes deliberate, every silence calculated, and every choice amplified by the awareness of others that you are not to be taken for granted. Distance is the silent architect of respect, the invisible scaffolding of authority, and the subtle tool that transforms you from a pleasing presence into a consequential force. Embrace the necessity of discomfort. Respect is never born from comfort. It is forged in tension, in challenge, and in the moments when others shy away from difficulty. Machiavelli understood that those who constantly seek to please, to smooth over every disagreement, and to avoid every confrontation will never wield true power. The world does not reward the agreeable. It rewards the decisive, the courageous, the ones willing to bear the discomfort that others fear. To command respect, you must embrace the very tension that most flee from. You must speak truths that make others uncomfortable, act decisively when hesitation is easier, and enforce boundaries that provoke resistance. This is not a call to cruelty or thoughtless aggression, but a call to presence and principle. Every time you soften your actions to avoid a negative reaction, you surrender power. Every time you act to maintain peace at the expense of consequence, you lose authority. Machiavelli observed rulers who were universally liked, and he saw the fragility in their popularity. Their courts were filled with smiles, yet their thrones were insecure because no one feared the consequences of undermining them.
Respect, in contrast, thrives in calculated discomfort. It is in the pause after a decisive statement, the weight of a boundary enforced without apology, the calm but unwavering refusal to be bent to another's will. People may resent you in the moment. They may feel tension in your presence, but these are the very signals that respect is being established. By embracing discomfort, by enduring unease and tolerating resentment when it arises, you rise above the weak pursuit of likability. You create a presence that is measured, commanding, and ultimately unstoppable. Those around you will begin to understand, even if unconsciously, that your authority is not to be questioned lightly, that your standards are unwavering, and that your influence is earned not through charm, but through the courage to do what is necessary when others cannot. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the crucible through which true power is forged. The subtle art of calculated fear. Machiavelli's timeless advice was never to misunderstand the role of fear in human dynamics. It is far safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Yet fear must be wielded with subtlety, strategy, and unwavering precision. True respect is not born from loud intimidation, displays of anger, or random cruelty. It is cultivated through a quiet, persistent awareness in others that your presence carries consequence, that your decisions are not idle, and that testing your limits is costly. People instinctively respect those who act decisively, reward loyalty, and punish transgression with unshakable consistency. They respect those who communicate not with empty words, but with deliberate action, whose choices carry weight, and whose silence is measured, meaningful, and sometimes more formidable than any speech.
To master this form of respect, one must learn restraint as thoroughly as one learns action. There is no need to shout, command, or dominate in obvious ways. Instead, you project control through composure, through deliberate pacing, and through an awareness that every movement, every glance, every word, or absence of one conveys authority. Calculated fear is not cruelty. It is a signal, a silent code. Crossing me is unwise. Disregarding me is dangerous. My boundaries are absolute, and my influence is undeniable. The man who seeks to be liked softens himself for comfort, negotiates endlessly to avoid tension, and reacts to others' whims in the hope of approval. The respected man operates differently. He acts from principle, from strategy, and from a higher understanding of influence. His silence can outweigh a dozen speeches. His glance can command more attention than any grand gesture, and his absence can teach lessons that no confrontation ever could. Fear, when balanced with fairness, consistency, and measured authority, becomes a conduit for respect, rather than a source of resentment. It communicates a truth that words cannot, that you are consequential, deliberate, and defined not by the fleeting approval of others, but by the weight of your actions. To master calculated fear is to step entirely out of the fragile realm of likability and into the realm of enduring consequence. It is to ensure that every decision, every interaction, every boundary you establish resonates with inevitability and significance. People will feel tension in your presence. They will measure every word, anticipate every action, and reconsider every move before crossing you. But that tension is the currency of respect. Comfort breeds weakness. Approval breeds manipulation. But calculated fear solidifies authority, shapes behavior, and elevates influence to a level that is rarely questioned, quietly commanding, and undeniably permanent.
To stop being liked and begin commanding respect, you must first master the most powerful weapon of influence available, your own image. Machiavelli understood that perception is reality, and in life as in politics, how you are seen shapes how you are treated. It is not enough to act with competence or intelligence. You must ensure that every interaction, every gesture, and every word communicates authority, consistency, and consequence. Oversharing, over-explaining, or seeking validation diminishes your perceived power. People will notice every unnecessary justification, every attempt to charm or please, and they will measure you as weak. The respected individual carefully cultivates presence, appearance, and reputation as tools of strategy. He speaks deliberately, with weight and timing that make even silence commanding. He acts decisively, but not recklessly. His actions convey a sense of inevitability, of control, and of deliberate calculation. Others are compelled to pay attention not because they like him, but because they understand, consciously or not, that his decisions matter, that his words carry weight, and that crossing him has consequences they cannot ignore. Mastering your image is not about deception, it is about amplification. Every glance, every posture, every inflection of voice is an unspoken assertion of competence, calm, and authority. You become the standard by which others measure themselves, the reference point for behavior, the presence that subtly dominates a room without a single shout or demand. This mastery also extends to your absence. Machiavelli observed that those who appear too frequently, who make themselves too accessible, inevitably diminish in stature. Scarcity enhances value. Measured presence signals consequence. By controlling what others perceive and carefully curating how you are experienced, you create a gravitational field of influence.
People begin to anticipate your decisions, respect your boundaries, and hesitate before challenging your authority. Your image becomes a silent language of power, understood universally without explanation. Liking is conditional, fleeting, and dictated by the moods of others. Respect, once cemented through mastery of image and deliberate action, is permanent, commanding, and unassailable. To achieve this, you must be relentless in your self-discipline, meticulous in your presentation, and unwavering in your decisions. Every small detail, how you walk, how you listen, how you respond, becomes a statement. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be acknowledged, measured, and ultimately respected. Once your image is mastered, you operate above the petty need for validation, above the fickle judgments of crowds, and in that elevated space, you wield influence effortlessly, decisively, and without compromise. 7. The liberation of indifference. The final and perhaps most transformative step in the journey from being liked to being respected is the cultivation of true indifference, a state of liberation few ever achieve. Indifference does not mean apathy, nor does it mean cruelty. It means rising above the chains of approval, above the constant need for validation, and above the fragile tides of emotion that so easily manipulate the human mind. Machiavelli observed rulers, generals, and influential men who were enslaved by the desire to be liked. They flattered, they appeased, they negotiated endlessly to avoid conflict, and in doing so, they surrendered their authority, their clarity, and their freedom. To be free is to act without the weight of others' opinions dictating your every choice, to operate from principle rather than the shifting whims of affection. This liberation transforms every aspect of your existence. Decisions become sharper because they are guided by strategy, not fear of rejection. Boundaries become absolute because they are enforced for consequence, not approval. Your presence commands attention not because you seek applause, but because you demand recognition. When you embrace indifference, you cultivate a presence that is unshakable, a reputation that is untouchable, and a power that cannot be borrowed or revoked. People may react with envy, frustration, or even fear, but these reactions are signs that respect,
has replaced fleeting affection. You are no longer negotiating your worth with every interaction. You are measured, calculated, and consequential. Your influence grows because it is anchored in principle and mastery over yourself, not in the fragile currency of likability. And there is a quiet, almost invisible beauty to this state. In being indifferent to others' approval, you become untouchable, free to pursue your goals, unencumbered by manipulation, drama, or distraction. You are no longer the pleasing face in the crowd, the agreeable companion, or the predictable presence. You are the standard others compare themselves against. You are the force that shapes interactions rather than being shaped by them.
You are respected, not because you have asked for it, not because you have flattered for it, but because you have claimed it, through restraint, through calculated action, through mastery of presence, and above all, through indifference. This is the ultimate power, the dark power that Machiavelli celebrated, the ability to move through the world unbound by others' opinions, commanding consequence with every word, every gesture, every silent moment. Liberation comes not from being loved, not from being liked. It comes from knowing that your stature, your authority, and your influence are yours alone, untouchable and permanent. The world will always tell you to be liked. It will tell you to charm, to appease, to win smiles, and to seek approval. But likability is a trap. It is fragile, fleeting, and ultimately irrelevant in the pursuit of true influence. Respect, on the other hand, is permanent, consequential, and commanding. It is the quiet force that makes others pause, measure their words, and reconsider their actions in your presence. Machiavelli taught us that those who seek approval surrender their power, while those who cultivate respect claim authority, command consequence, and operate freely without being bound by the whims of others. You now know the path. Stop bending to please. Embrace discomfort. Cultivate strategic distance. Master your image and wield calculated fear with precision. Rise above the need for affection, step out of the fragile world of likability, and anchor your life in enduring consequence. This is not a call for cruelty or isolation. It is a call for mastery. Begin today. Observe your interactions. Notice where you seek approval, and replace that desire with principle. Let your presence carry weight, your absence be felt, and your actions speak louder than words. Do not wait for permission, validation, or applause. Command it. Own it. Respect is not given, it is claimed. And once claimed, nothing can diminish it.